if we held each other accountable, I do believe black women would have no choice but to follow suit. And the way we do that, we we got to start cleaning up after each other. And that means if a woman has a child by another man, leave her alone. Hands off. Let that man, the one she chose, raise that child. And I think when men stop playing stepdad to another man's legacy, two things is going to happen. Women become more intentional about who they sleep with, who they let get them pregnant. And then men are forced to show up because there's no one else there to do it for them. And no, it's not hate or anything like that. Or I'm pushing and I don't like our people. It's just establishing some type of order. Um, Stop rewarding recklessness. And I think a lot of us men are doing it. We don't like to talk about it, but I don't care. I'm going to talk about it. But we got to let consequences teach what comfort never will. So if you didn't create a child, you're not responsible for the cleanup. Hold the man responsible and let that woman sit with the choices she made. And I think only then will the culture, will the community start to shift. Until then, we're just enabling and calling it love. But this is a hard choice to make. But I think if we start doing this, it's going to cause a huge paradigm shift.
All right, so you say stop rewarding recklessness. I do not disagree with that part. However, hasty generalization, because that assumes that every woman that has children and not a man was reckless. Not true at all. You understand? And so when you talk about holding men accountable by making women sit with their choices, that's another place you get wrong. First, let me say this. A way to hold men accountable to holding up their responsibility for the children they create is we stop hanging out with those men. Stop doing business with them, all that. Parents, cut them off. Brothers, cut them off. Sisters, cut them off. Society, ostracize them. I know that sounds harsh, and I can hear Craig and Smokey going, damn! But that'll hold those men accountable. Because men rely on that social system. Because we're social people. And it would do something for us if no one would deal with us at all. And women shouldn't date men who's abandoned their children. Let's be honest. So if you're talking about rewarding recklessness, you're only speaking to one side. You're only telling men not to date single mothers. You're not saying women don't date single fathers. Let's be honest, for every single mother, there's a single father, and sometimes multiple, as many women have children by different men. Many men have different children by different women as well. If you're talking about making society better, your view is narrow-minded. You're not seeing the full view. And also, let me show you this.
Me after 8 years, yeah, just caught her at the hotel with another nigga. The nigga just left. I scared him off, and now she over here in the motherfucking corner and shit. You gonna cheat on me after 8 years? And you got my kids, bruh?
Now, I hate to show you guys this with the woman being the bad guy here, but a lot of times it's like we can't see it when the guy is the bad guy. Because I've heard people argue that if a man cheating on you, you already got kids with him, you should just still stay with him and work it out. Okay, so, and we're saying you made bad choices in who you made a child with, right? So get this. After 8 years, he caught her cheating on him, right? After 8 years, they got 3 children out of this, right? Now, one side of this is recklessness. She ruined her relationship out of recklessness, but she didn't necessarily choose a bad partner. But I could see a man saying, no, I'm not going to be a stepfather to your children. You ruined your last relationship. But what about him? He was in a relationship for 8 years and catches his wife cheating on him. Should he stay with this person? Even though he doesn't trust her, she's been disloyal. I'm sure you would say, well, nah. Well, then that's true for the other side. You can't have a one way of seeing things. That leads to an unbalanced world. You understand? You can't be biased like that. Let me show you another one. Now, you see how she was acting, right? Like she lost her mind. This happens whenever somebody has so many expectations poured into a person and they get them shattered right there. She walked into a restaurant and caught her man cheating on her with her best friend, and she's literally losing her mind right here. Now, you're going to say, well, she made a bad choice in her man. Here's the problem. Dudes lie. And they will pretend and put up a front that they are a good person, and meanwhile be doing all of that behind your back. And we know men lie, okay? We know we lie, all right? Let's be real. And so if she's believed this man by the character that he displayed, and then she finds out that he was lying to her, let's just say she has a child by him. Are we saying that she made a bad decision and she doesn't deserve another man? See, when people make these hasty generalizations like this and speak blanket statements, we're not considering everybody. And it's impossible to consider everybody, right? And so we should just leave it to ask questions. Okay, explore the yellow flag, see if they lead to a red flag, and then determine by the character if you want to be with this person or not. But based on what you're saying, if men should say, I'm no longer going to date single mothers, this also implies that women without children are somehow just better for you, right? But these women that made bad choices once didn't have children, correct? Also, let's talk about all the women who didn't have a child before, but used a man to get a child out of him just to weaponize child support, just to use him for what he had. Let's talk about all the women without children that date men with an agenda. Let's talk about all the women who say a man got to make this amount, be this tall. All these things show you that they don't have much character because they're not looking for character. They're looking for aesthetics, which means they probably don't have much character. You understand what I'm saying? A person with character looks for a person with character. So you can often tell by who a person is by what they're seeking. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So blanket statement, it doesn't cover everybody, so it's not good information. Also, you got to think about all the children who's benefited from having a stepfather, all of the men who's benefited from having stepchildren that love them and still have great relationships to this day. One man's experience is not everybody's. And one of the problems I see on these shows and what I see on the internet is when someone gives their experience and it's to the positive, it's the outlier. What we do is we use all of these excuses so we can deflect or disregard their experience by saying, you're an outlier. That's your own anecdotal experience. It's not the majority. Very unfair, because every person's experience should be considered whenever you're trying to have these types of topics, because one man's experience ain't everybody's. One woman's experience is not everybody's. That's all I'm saying. Think about it. Peace.